Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 7th episode of Visionary Talk series by Governance Now. This is Kailash Nath Adhikari here, Managing Director, Governance Now, and it is our proud privilege and honor today that we have been joined by none other than Chairman, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, Shri R.S. Sharma ji. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much. Namaste for joining us.
Namaste, namaste, namaste.
Ladies
Thank you very much. Yes, please, go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shri R.S. Sharma ji is an Indian bureaucrat. He has been the chairman of Telecom Regulatory Authority of India since the 10th of August 2015. Prior to this assignment, he sworn in as the Secretary of Department of Electronics and Information Technology under the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology. He belongs to the 1978 batch of the Indian Administration Service. He joined University of Allahabad, from where he earned his Bachelor of Science degree. He completed his Masters in Mathematics from IIT Kanpur. He earned a Master's in Computer Science from University of California, Riverside in 2002, and subsequently a PhD from IIT Delhi. As chairman of TRAI, he steered the adoption of net neutrality regulations in India. He has taken measures to enable consumer choice in determining market outcomes. Example, a new framework for broadcasting and cable services, regulations for mobile number portability, and the use of crowdsourced information or field measurements to uniform customers. Sir is also a proud recipient of Prime Minister's Award for Excellence in Public Administration in the year 2008. It's a privilege and honor to have you, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Adhikari. It's always, very pleasant to interact with the Governance Now, and I have done so on many occasions in the past. I've also written a number of articles in Governance Now, and I think one of them was what was unique about Aadhaar long back. It's a very long article. So Governance Now, because it straight away addresses the question of governance. It is one of my favorite sort of magazines because I have been involved in this issue of governance in whatever capacity that I've been working on, and I've been trying to ensure that introduction. My belief is that introduction of technology can simplify many things and can actually make things better. And many of India's hard problems can be solved by technology. So I think, again, I'm very happy to be here with you, and thank you very much for having this conversation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for the acknowledgement. It really means a lot to us. So, sir, my first question is, as your decisions during your tenure as TRAI chairman sparked many industry debates, if we look at your journey, how do you recall these 5 years, sir?
Well, put it this way, I will not say that any institution solely depends on an individual. You see, the institution has its own continuity, and individuals do make some difference, but I think it is not, if the institutions become individual centric, that means there is some problem in those institutions. So I don't think that I have been the singular sort of entity which has done all these things. It is the institution which has done these things. But if I look back at my experience of last 5 years, it has been very, very satisfying, enriching, and we have been able to do many things. We may not have been able to do many things because let us remember that the TRAI plays the twin roles of regulating certain parts of the telecom and broadcasting space, and these parts are quality of service, interconnection, and tariffs. But there are some other parts of the industry like spectrum and like other issues, which it is a DOT, the licensor, which has the power and authority to do it. And in those spaces, the TRAI has only a recommendatory authority, recommendatory body, either on the request of the government or on suo motu, as they call it, suo motu. So we do that. We have been given lots and lots of recommendations. The primary purpose of these recommendations to the government over the last 5 years has been to ensure how can we sort of proliferate connectivity in the country by whatever means we can do that. So we have given a number of recommendations on connectivity. We have given number of recommendations on, recommendation on net neutrality. We have given many other recommendations like complaints, grievance addressal system in telecom space and stuff like that. So we have also given lots and lots of inputs to the formation of the National Digital Communication Policy, which was announced in 2018. And so therefore, I think absolutely, we have also given recommendations on privacy, security, and ownership of data in the telecom space. Number of broadband issues. So then in the broadcasting sector, similarly, we sort of we regulate tariffs, interconnection, and quality of service. There also we have given a number of recommendations, and in fact, we can say that one of the fundamental changes which we brought out in the broadcasting sector was the triplet of regulations which dealt with all the three issues of quality, interconnection, and tariff, which is what is popularly come to be known as NTO 1.0, which could be implemented only, right, which could be only now, of course, NTO 2.0, because we saw some deficiencies in implementation of NTO 1.0, and the basic purpose of it was to increase transparency to the consumers, ensure that consumer pays for what he watches, and the consumer has the ultimate choice of what he watches. So these were the basic defining and overarching principles of those regulations. Those regulations actually remained in courts for quite some time, and then could become
matters
effective.
Are up to hearing now, sir. NTO 2, I think matter is up.
No, again, then of course we came up with NTO 2.0 because there were some problems in NTO, implementation of NTO 1.0. That is under litigation in the Bombay High Court as of now. So anyway, I think it's a normal process of law where every affected party has a full right to approach the legal fora.
Naturally,
we have no reservations or objections, and it's a country based on rule of law, and therefore everybody has a right to approach the court. So that's how we have also facilitated. And I would say that in last 5 years, the TRAI's main focus has been consumers. So anything which is for benefit of the consumers, we have not hesitated to take steps on them. Maybe it has not found favor with many groups or many stakeholders, but ultimately I think we have been very fair, because our mandate is to take care of the growth of the industry, to take care of competition, and to take care of the interest of the consumers. And I think we strike a balance. Sometimes it becomes very difficult to do that, but I think we try to strike a balance between all three objectives, if in case there are any contradictions.
True. So as you said that you try to strike a balance between both sides of the business and consumers. And if we specifically talk about television broadcaster, we all know that in the COVID-19 time, it is one of the most affected industries. Now, if experts are to be believed, and some media reports, it would need a minimal regulation to recover at the same time. And at the same time, TRAI has been accused of over-regulating the industry. Now, what's your take on that?
Look, I think these are the views which depend on who is giving these views, right? So ultimately, people have different views, and I think they are free to have their views and opinions. But as far as we are concerned, we have always promoted transparency, non-discrimination, and followed the concept of light touch regulatory regime. The authority feels that market competition drives innovation and invention, bringing higher gains for businesses and better outcomes, choices for consumers, which ultimately leads to the growth and development of the sector. The advantage of introducing competition is that the market players are always adding value to the services. As sector regulator, TRAI has always believed that as its intervention should be limited to instance of market failures. We don't really intervene if the market is functioning all right. Over-regulation can cause distortions that hold back transformation, that endanger sectoral resilience and innovation. In addition to this, one of the main objectives of the new regulatory framework was to empower the consumer, as I explained to you earlier. The new regulatory framework ensures that the real and informed choice is made available to the consumer. As per the new framework, the consumer will get to choose the channels of his choice, the freedom of choice will mean a direct control of the consumer on the monthly bill for television services. The new regulatory framework has been put in place after due consultative process and has passed the legal scrutiny of the highest court of this land, which is Honorable Supreme Court of India. The market behavior of Indian telecom broadcasting sector is very different compared to anywhere else in the world. Regulations of a sector where multiple stakeholders operate in the service delivery value chain requires deft balancing of disparate interests. New regulatory framework provides ample flexibility to broadcasters to offer channels either on a la carte basis or as a bouquet. In fact, the new framework has removed any ceiling from the channel pricing that was in force since 2004, and that is something which people don't realize, that now you can price your channel as much as you like. I mean, this was actually a constraint, and this was probably an example of an over regulation rather than the other NTO 1.2 as you call it. In order to bring in transparency, prices of channels and cost of networks have been separated in new framework, because what was happening is that the distributors and everything was coupled. The pricing was coupled with the distribution fees itself. So we actually separated these two. Broadcasters have now the flexibility to decide MRP of their channels. For recovery of network cost, network capacity fee has been prescribed. The network capacity fee has been prescribed to ensure that the distributors have sources of revenue independent of the revenue share from pay channels, subscription revenue, with a reasonable rate of return on investment in the existing distribution network, and to ramp up further investment to ensure better quality of service to the customers. You can see that the new framework is beneficial for all the stakeholders in the value chain. Adequate flexibility has been given to all stakeholders. In such a situation, it will be unfair to call such regulatory framework over-regulating. There may be some teething problems in the initial phase of implementation. Overall, we have got positive response from stakeholders to further empower consumers and protect the interest and remove the teething problems of faced during implementation of NTO 1.0. TRAI has amended the existing regulatory framework and brought NTO 2. The final question I would rather ask you is that if you can point out any specific facet of this regulatory framework which you think is over-regulation, which you think is an example or an instance of over-regulation, I'll be very happy to answer that question.
But sir, if things are to be believed, now as you said, NTO 2 is sub judice matter in the court, and today morning we hear in news that TRAI is also now has put up for urgent hearing the ad cap matter, which is to be coming up for hearing somewhere in September. Now for FTA channels, now out of the total 918 channels, about 63 channels are FTA. Their sole revenue is advertising. Advertising has taken such a dramatic hit because of COVID-19. And if now something like an ad cap comes, how will they survive, sir? Because at the end, as you mentioned, that all the regulations are in order for the benefit of the consumer and also for the benefit of the industry as well. Now, if channels start shutting down, how is it going to benefit the consumer?
It's not a question of that. Tell me one thing. As a normal viewer, forget about the fact that you are a broadcaster. As a normal viewer, how much advertisement should be provided to you in an hour of viewing?
So see, as a normal viewer, I can say that if I feel that a particular channel has more number of advertisements, I definitely have choice. It is not that any particular genre has a monopoly here. If I want to watch a music channel, if a particular music channel I believe has too much, I'll shift. It is upon their commercial independence how much they want to earn, sir, because advertising is their sole source of income. They are not pay TV. I can understand for pay TV, sir, like 12-minute ad cap.
Anyway, look, it's a question whether it is right or wrong. It is ultimately matter is ultimately in the court, right?
Yes, sir.
And the court will decide whether what we have done is right or wrong. So therefore, to say that we have expedited or we have requested for expediting the hearing, there's nothing wrong about it. That case has been pending, if you know, from umpteen number of years. Don't you think that
2013?
13. So 7 years have passed. Don't you think 7 years is a reasonable time for a case to remain pending?
But at such time, sir, when industry is
actually don't you think that it is our responsibility? After all, you must understand that the TRAI, when it issues regulation, it is actually doing what is called the subordinate legislation. It is actually, it's a parliament of the country which has assigned TRAI some of its powers to kind of make laws or make regulations in regulations in form of their laws, whatever you call them. And that actually, those regulations are put up before the parliament for their approval. So this is a regulation, this is a law, in a way, subordinate law, which has been pending since last 7 years. Now, don't you think that we have a right to just tell the honorable courts that please expedite it? Is that too much to ask? But this is really very funny that, you know, now you are questioning that you have expedited the courts to dispose of the matter. Don't you think that, you know, you could have also 7 years pending is not a normal thing to happen. So I think we are very right in just telling the court that please decide the issue, whichever way it is. We are not saying that decide the issue in our favor, right? Of course, as party,
actually,
always,
it's up to the honorable court.
Say it again.
It is up to the honorable court, sir, as I said.
Yeah, it's up to the honorable court to decide. That's right.
Absolutely. So there was also a lot of resistance when TRAI came out with recommendation over the BARC ratings about their governance structure, about their measurement panels. Not just experts find complexities in recommendation, but also questioning the timing and the economic viability of a singular body who is actually the currency of the television broadcast industry. What are your views on it, sir?
Look, we have BARC has been in existence since last about 3 years, right?
Yes.
2016, if I remember, 4 years now, and we have seen its functioning, and we feel that audience measurement is a means of qualitatively and quantitatively assessing what is being viewed. Audience measurement is essential as a significant source of funds for broadcasting in advertising and program sponsorship, right? If some channel is not being bought by anybody, that's the only currency, exactly. For sectors depending on advertisement revenue for survival and growth, audience measurement is a critical activity. Broadcasting is one such sector which is largely dependent on advertisement revenue. You will agree, right? Yes. Out of the overall broadcasters revenue of 45,000 crores in 2019, 32,000 crores were collected from advertising revenues. So it's a very significant portion of the revenue of the sector. This underlies the dependence of the industry on the flow of advertisement revenue, which in turn largely hinges on the profile of their audience and the popularity of their content, which is assessed through television audience measurement rating. So it is imperative that the process of TAM, that is television audience measurement, and TRP should be objective, fair, neutral, and transparent, right? You will agree with me? For the same reason, the process of TAM and TRP engages continued attention from the sector regulators, leading to periodical review and reforms. In India, TRAI has been suggesting measures to refine the system from time to time. Present policy guidelines for television rating agencies issued by MIB are based on TRAI's recommendation. It is TRAI actually which has given recommendations to constitute BARC or to constitute such measurement bodies. Broadcast Audience Research Council, BARC, is the sole provider of TV rating services on commercial basis in 2015. Certain concerns relating to structure, neutrality and reliability of the existing rating system have been raised by stakeholders, which necessitated the review of the existing TAM and TRP in India. Issues of panel expansion or panel tempering are also raised, which require immediate attention because of the harm it can cause to the integrity of TAM and television channel ratings. Television audience measurement is a technology-based process, is ever evolving with the advancement in technologies deployed. Similar characteristics of bringing technology-induced changes in the creation, storage, transmission, and delivery of content over the medium is shared by broadcasting services. These rapid changes gave rise to new issues along with new avenues to explore and update to improve the credibility of TAM system. Several concerns relating to neutrality and reliability of the existing rating system have been raised by stakeholders, which necessitated the review of the existing television audience measurement and rating system in India. After a due consultation process, TRAI forwarded its recommendation on review of television audience measurement rating system in India to MIB on 20th April 2020. Some important recommendations, if you recall, are We want need of a structural reform and governance structure of BARC to mitigate the potential risk of conflict of interest, improve credibility, and bring transparency and instill confidence of all stakeholders in the TV audience measurement and rating system. To create credible and accurate collection of data, multiple data collection agencies need to be encouraged. Competition and multiple agencies for data collection and processing would bring in new technologies, new research methodologies, new methods in analysis, new and better ways to ensure better data quality. Kindly remember that currently the entire rating is based on a few thousand, 40 or 50 or 60,000, these machines. I think once you have 100 crore people,
but when BARC came, the boxes have improved also, sir. I know, I mean, as a percentage of the total viewing population or households, it's less. But if you can recall, if before BARC, when TAM was there, now the boxes have increased, I think 3 or 4 times.
That doesn't make a difference. If you improve 0.1% becomes 0.4%, it is not a great improvement. Please understand. If you have a sample size of 1%, 100, let's say 200 crore houses in this country. Even if 100 crore people watch televisions, 100 crore का 1% कितना होता है? 1 करोड़ होता है. 1 करोड़ का 0.1% 10 लाख होता है. ठीक है? तो 0.1% is also 10 lakh. And now how many boxes you have got? 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. Chalo yaar, whatever. So what I'm saying is that now you have technology, you have mobile phones, you have, we did a hackathon in Bangalore, and people have come up with brilliant technology ideas which can actually, at low cost, increase the sample size. And shouldn't that be done? If we have larger sample, it will certainly improve the accuracy of the measurement. If you have larger sample, select the sample in a scientific way, you can do many things. Therefore, there is a need to, the technology allows to do that. There is a need to improve the ratings. There is a need to improve measurement, and those measurements have got to become objective. So basically, BARC should review and frame its outlier policy based on scientific study and market survey conducted from time to time. BARC should automate data processing in such a manner that no manual intervention is required before the final TRP rating is released. I am told that there are, outliers are rejected, but what is the basis of detection of outliers is not known to people. So there is, I think, some lack of transparency. Any type of manual intervention in the meter level raw data arising out of household panel must be avoided. Manual intervention, if any abnormal circumstances, should be reported and informed to audience also. And therefore, adequate framework for grievance redressal may be made, having nodal officers and appellate bodies, so that the grievances of stakeholders can be effectively addressed in a time-bound manner. BARC should also develop a portal where any stakeholder can raise the grievances with regard to these things. So basically, in an era of artificial intelligence, introduction of competition in rating services would bring in new innovative methodologies. It is quite possible that measurement can be expanded from a sample based model to a census based model. I mean, what is the problem if, let's say, after 2 years or 3 years in this country, we start having, the interoperable set-top boxes which also have an inherent mechanism of actually just recording and sending the data to the BARC type of agency, then it's a census driven situation. There's no error at all. I mean, you can have the data of granular viewing by a single individual without violating his privacy or other things. So therefore, we need to make these reforms. We have to move with times. And I think because the audience rating and measurement is so critical and important in this, we need to carry out these reforms in the audience measurement rating. So that's the reason. Of course, it is for the government to accept that recommendation or not.
Now, sir, because as you mentioned that with times we have to move, and now we are living in a time of technology where it is quite imperative. But these also call for huge investments. Now, if we see who is footing the bills of BARC, you have your broadcasters footing of the bills of BARC, and उनके promoters कौन है? उनके promoters IBF है, Advertising Agencies Association है, advertisers के जो club है. अब BARC की अगर मानी जाए तो अगर ये सब implement करने जाए तो उनकी इतनी heavy capex और investment हो जाएगी कि उनका बिल भरेगा कौन at the end of the day? मतलब उनका यही कहना है कि
कैलाशनाथ अधिकारी जी, ये सारे प्रश्नों के उत्तर आपके हमारे जो आप उस पढ़ेंगे हमारी रिकमेंडेशन को, उसमें सारे उत्तर दे दिए गए हैं. कई बार ऐसा है कि आपका एक जो बॉक्स है उसकी कीमत अभी वर्तमान में 20,000 या 25,000 रुपए है, ठीक है ना. और अगर मान लीजिए आप अपने मोबाइल फोन को ही कन्वर्ट कर देते हैं किसी ऐप के माध्यम से, जो कि उसका रिमोट भी बन जाए और जो मेजरमेंट भी करे, उसकी इंक्रीमेंटल कॉस्ट 5 रुपया भी नहीं होगी, डेटा की ट्रांसमिशन की कॉस्ट 2 रुपया होगी। तो ये कहना कि कोई भी बेहतर करने का मतलब है इन्वेस्टमेंट, ये आज की दुनिया में, आज की तकनीकी दुनिया में सही नहीं है। बहुत सारी चीजें बिना इन्वेस्टमेंट के और बिना बहुत ही फ्रूगल तरीके से हो सकती हैं। आप सोचिए, आपको पेमेंट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इस देश में बढ़ाई। अभी पेमेंट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर क्या था कि भाई आप एटीएम में जाइए, बैंक में जाइए, पैसा निकालिए, पैसा ट्रांसफर कीजिए, वो सब कीजिए। उसके बाद फिर एनईएफटी बना, आईएमपीएस बना, आरटीजीएस बना, उसमें 2.5 रुपए में 3 रुपए में आप ट्रांसफर कर सकते हैं पैसा। उसके बाद यूपीआई आया, यूपीआई में आपको 0 पैसा देना पड़ता है। और जानते हैं यूपीआई में कितना ट्रांजेक्शन हो रहा है एक महीने में? 125 करोड़। पिछले महीने जून में 125 करोड़ ट्रांजेक्शन हुआ। तो ये कोई मजाक चीज
लॉकडाउन
नहीं
आने
है।
के बाद तो बहुत बढ़ गया है सर, डिजिटल पेमेंट्स के ऊपर का जो आधार है।
लॉकडाउन से कोई संबंध, बिना लॉकडाउन का भी बहुत बढ़ रहा था, लॉकडाउन आने के बाद बहुत बढ़ गया। आधार एनेबल्ड पेमेंट सिस्टम, 700 मिलियन ट्रांजेक्शंस हुए, डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट ट्रांसफर हुए। उस वक्त जो है, सोचिए आप किसी आदमी को पैसा ट्रांसफर करने के लिए तरह तरह के अलॉटमेंट करिए, तो स्टेट में अलॉटमेंट जाएगा, फिर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में जाएगा, फिर ब्लॉक में जाएगा, फिर इंडिविजुअल में जाएगा, पंचायत में जाएगा। आज जो है पैसा बिल्कुल माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के आदेश का जो आपका गरीब कल्याण योजना है, उसमें 550 करोड़ लोगों को सब्सिडी डायरेक्ट जाती है 500 रुपए की। तो आप ये सोचिए कि टेक्नोलॉजी से बहुत चीजें बदल गई है, और इस दुनिया में इस समय इस टेक्नोलॉजी का इस्तेमाल न करना, it will be a bad thing for us to happen, especially if we are a technology superpower in terms of applications. We have, I was amazed to see the result of the hackathon, which these boys and girls came up with the beautiful ideas as to how you can improve audience measurement systems even without an investment. That's number one. Number two, on the governance structure also, we have given very clear, reasons as to why governance structure needs to change. Because governance structure, we find there are a lot of conflict of interest issues, which we have pointed out. So therefore, I think one should read the recommendations in totality before coming to a view on this issue.
Okay. Sir, President of Indian Broadcasting Federation said in a statement that IBF believes these amendments, जो NTO 1 और NTO 2 है, will severely impair broadcast abilities to compete with other unregulated platforms and adversely affect the viability of pay TV industry. अब जब NTO 1 आया, और अब क्योंकि कोविड के कारण लॉसेस भी हुए, अब NTO 2 सब जुडिस मैटर है, काफी सारे इंग्लिश एंटरटेनमेंट चैनल्स बंद हो गए। अब कहीं ना कहीं ये, because the broadcasters are bleeding, they believe now with the closure of channels, there's a lot of unemployment also which is being created at a time where we are reeling at in a COVID period. Now, अभी इसकी वायबिलिटी के ऊपर आपका क्या कहना है? क्योंकि उनका ये स्टेटमेंट है कि इसके कारण हमें चैनल बंद करने पड़ रहे हैं, कुछ इंग्लिश जनरेटेड नीश चैनल्स की व्यूअरशिप कम हो गई है, पब्लिक उन्हें सब्सक्राइब नहीं कर रही है, एंड इसके कारण जॉब लॉस भी हो रहा है एक नाजुक समय में।
देखिए, ऐसा है मिस्टर अधिकारी, मैंने ये नहीं सोचा था कि आप इस इंटरव्यू को गवर्नेंस नाउ और गवर्नेंस के इश्यू से लेकर के हटा करके आप इसको NTO 2 और NTO 1 की एनालिसिस और बार की रेटिंग के बारे में
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है सर, बिल्कुल नहीं है। गवर्नेंस, हम गवर्नेंस की ही बातें कर रहे हैं सर, हम कोई किसी के पक्ष में बातें नहीं कर रहे।
ये बिल्कुल गवर्नेंस की बात नहीं है, लेकिन फिर भी मैं आपका किसी सवाल से भागूंगा नहीं, ठीक है ना, आप निश्चिंत रहिए। मैं दो बातें कहना चाहता हूँ। एक तो ये है कि ये इशू हमारा कोर्ट में अभी पेंडिंग है, इसलिए ऑब्वियसली इस इशू पर बहुत ज्यादा बोलना आवश्यक नहीं है, और मैं आई विल नॉट लाइक टू जॉइन द डिबेट with the IBF, because IBF is one of the parties in the court, right? And therefore, whatever I say should not be taken as I'm saying without prejudice, and I'm saying as a caveat that whatever I speak will not be, sort of quoted in the court of law before the Honorable High Court. And I'm therefore I'm restricting myself on making much of the issues. But I just want to make one point. Today, how many people in this country are watching Netflix, Amazon Prime, G5, Alt Balaji, and many other OTT platforms? do you think that a platform, giving English movies with huge amount of advertisement is a better platform, or somebody will probably choose to go to the platform which gives a lot of choices of whenever you want to watch, wherever you want to watch, while the channels have that problem. So there are multiple reasons why people are going away from the certain genre of channels. You cannot attribute all of them to the NTO 2 or NTO 1.0. That's number one. Number two, as I explained to you, tell me one provision of NTO 1 or NTO 2 which is restricted. Tell me one provision and I'll contradict to you.
चलिए सर, अभी आपने कहा कि मैटर इज सब जुडिस है, तो नेचुरली इट्स बेटर कि
आपने क्योंकि इस बात को और इस डिबेट को इसमें कन्वर्ट कर दिया है, तो
मैंने कुछ कन्वर्ट नहीं किया है सर।
मैं भी किसी उससे चिंतित नहीं हूं, क्योंकि जो हमने किया है वो बिल्कुल सही किया है, वो बिल्कुल लोगों के हित में किया है, इंडस्ट्री के हित में किया है। जिस चैनल को कोई नहीं देखना चाहता उस चैनल को कोई नहीं देखे, ये हमने अगर मान लीजिए कोई नहीं चाहता देखना तो ना देखे। जबरदस्ती किसी आदमी को चैनल थोपना, हम लोगों की बार का ही डेटा है कि 90% लोग इस देश में 50 या उससे कम चैनल देखते हैं। वैसी स्थिति में 800 चैनल या 900 चैनल हमारे देश में है, और ऑफकोर्स विभिन्न भाषाओं के चैनल हैं, तो 50 चैनल देख करके लोगों को क्या अधिकार नहीं रहना चाहिए कि हम 50 चैनल अपनी पसंद के चुन सकें? इस बात से
कंज्यूमर किंग है आपका ये कहना है कि कंज्यूमर किंग है, लेट द कंज्यूमर डिसाइड।
देखिए मैं कहता हूं NTO 1 और NTO 2 में एक ऐसा प्रोविजन आप पॉइंट आउट कर दीजिए जो प्रोविजन जो है इंडस्ट्री के खिलाफ हो और अनरीजनेबल हो, इंडस्ट्री को हार्म हो और अनरीजनेबल हो। मुझे बता दीजिए, मैं उसका जवाब आपको दे दूंगा। कोई क्या कह रहा है कि IBF ने क्या स्टेटमेंट दिया है कि ये बिल्कुल बर्बाद हो जाएंगे सब लोग, ये सब बेकार की बातें हैं। ये सब केवल जो है लोगों में भ्रम पैदा करने की बातें हैं। अल्टीमेटली आपको क्या अधिकार बनता है? आप अपने कोर्ट में गए हो, एक रूल ऑफ लॉ है इस देश में, जैसे मैंने कहा रूल ऑफ लॉ है, तो रेगुलेशन दिया, आपने रेगुलेशन चैलेंज किया ऑनरेबल कोर्ट में जी, ऑनरेबल कोर्ट उस पर फैसला देगा। तो आप एक लीगल लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं या परसेप्शन और पब्लिक की लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं, प्रेस की लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं क्या? दिस इज नॉट फेयर। there is a law which can be challenged on an appropriate fora, and that challenge has been done, and that is what should really, we should wait for the decision of the honorable court and accordingly go about it. Creating such kind of unfounded, baseless fears in the minds of the people does not serve anybody's good purpose.
Absolutely, sir. So there's a rapid digital adaptation drive by COVID-19 and will continue post-recovery too, which calls for active implementation of the National Digital Communications Policy to create a robust digital communication infrastructure, especially in the development of education and healthcare sector. What are the opportunities it will bring, sir? And what is delaying its implementation? National Digital Communications Policy.
Mr. Adhikari, which you have asked, this is extremely important question, because I think COVID-19 has thrown up challenges which we had not even imagined earlier.
Absolutely.
And in these challenges, what has happened is, I am happy to say that we have come out, we are actually dealing with these challenges in a very, very effective manner, because the digital is the answer to this challenge in a very major way. So what has happened is, there are, now work from home. We are interacting like this on this channel and on this platform, and there are contactless stuff being done, digital transactions, electronic commerce. Many things have happened, and we have also realized that many of these things were not after all so bad. Imagine me and you meeting. You would have come down to my office, spent petrol, spent time, and I would have gone to wherever. So this whole thing has become so easy, and we are now realizing that it was only our mental attitude which was actually hampering us, or which was inhibiting us from accepting these technologies and these methods of working. And now they have become a norm. So I think even after COVID problem goes away, and one wishes and one prays to God that it goes away sooner than rather later, we have realized that there are many things which are better and which can be continued even after COVID has gone away. And I have always said that we must never waste a crisis. as I think Winston Churchill has said, that we should never waste a crisis. This is a crisis which we should never waste and we should utilize. And fortunately, India has got extremely good, software industries, software, platforms. India has developed digital identity platform, Aadhaar. India has developed the UPI, the payment platforms. And now India is developing multiple platforms leveraging technology and internet. You may remember that on 15th of August this year, our Honorable Prime Minister announced from the ramparts of Red Fort the National Digital Health Mission.
Yes.
And you know what is National Digital Health? It is going to transform the health delivery systems in this country. And this is all based on open APIs, open platform, open source, open, inclusive platform. And it will transform diagnostics. It will transform, sort of medical delivery systems. It can transform the teleconsultations. So there is a huge, way it is going to happen, and this will ensure in actually spreading the health services to remote areas where sometimes doctors don't go, and it will be able to provide a very cost-effective solutions to our people. So this is, and you will have the electronic health records. The Prime Minister had said digital identity, the health identity. So I think it is going to become a transformational, area. Similarly, we are now taking steps in many other areas. The Prime Minister, for example, also said that the vaccine delivery system will ensure that vaccine reaches every nook and corner and every individual. Same is 15th of August, Independence Day. And actually, we are creating now a digital infrastructure, a digital backbone to ensure delivery of vaccine in a transparent manner, where each individual will be accounted for. So these are some of the things which we are doing as a country. We are also doing as a country things to change the connectivity landscape of this country by proliferating broadband in the country, using various techniques. Whatever technologies are available, we must use that. So I think we are very focused. Our Prime Minister is extremely focused and has always directed us to work to ensure that we have digital connectivity, because that is going to be the integral part of future development and transformation of our country.
Technology is something which cannot be avoided now, and the future relies totally on technology. So despite being in financial turmoil and being debt-ridden, the telecom service providers have been driving the economy during the COVID-19. How is TRAI addressing their financial issues, the issues that the telecom sector is struggling with?
Look, we have, as I explained to you in the beginning, हम लोग हर मर्ज की दवा नहीं है, हर मर्ज की दवा हमारे पास नहीं है. Let us understand that. तो हिंदी में ज्यादा अच्छे से उसको बोल पाते हैं आदमी. हमारी जो शक्तियां हैं, we have this issue, as I explained to you, tariff. Now tariff is under forbearance. So if tariff is the problem, we are not the ones who are creating the problem. It is in the hands of the telecommunications operators to basically raise the tariff, and we just don't come in the way, right? So that is not an issue. Interconnection, we have reduced the charges to virtually a bare minimum. Now I think that whole thing is that 4 paisa is also going to go up, 6 paisa is also going to go away on 31st of December. Then quality of service, we have been monitoring, and of course we have been quite liberal in terms of monitoring this, and we think that is not an issue which contributes to the financial sort of problems of the telecom space. So essentially, I would say that, and of course ensuring competition and ensuring the consumer protection is normal idea, which is not again going to contribute to the financial this thing. Competition there's a free market, and therefore we can't disallow competition to exist, so to say. Now the question is that there are those issues which are on the recommendatory space of the TRAI, as I explained to you. So one is what we have done. We have done a number of things in the past to ensure that the telecom service providers are benefited. One recommendation which we had sent is reduction and removal of USA LOB and reduction in license fee. This is what we have said, that component of USO levy should be reduced from present 5% to 3% of AGR for all licensees with effect from 1st April 2015. With this reduction, the applicable uniform rate of license fee should become 6% from the present 8% of AGR, which the 3% of license fee that directly accrues currently to the government will not change. So that's one part, 8% to 6% reduction in the license fee. Reduction in spectrum user charges also we have recommended. We have the spectrum auction price relaxation in payout. We have said that let people pay the pay as you go kind of thing. Don't pay the if you have a 20 years license, then you can continue to pay year after year, so that in 19 year you complete. You have 1 year's advance all the time, but then you can allow them to be paid every year. Then of course rationalization of 18% GST rate for telecom sector. The telecom sector GST is very high, and we have recommended that it should be reduced to 5%, because telecommunication today is an essential service for every individual in this country.
Absolutely. We cannot imagine a world without telecommunication.
Yeah. So I mean, imagine, this is also very funny that in the broadcasting sector, for example, if you go to a cinema hall and watch, the GST is 5%. But if you watch a television, the GST is 12% or 18%. I'm not sure. I think 12%. There is no rationale for that. I mean, television is watched by every small person, and we have recommended that.
We are essentially a one television household also, sir, India.
Right. So
family viewing.
We should have some rationalization in GST, both in the telecommunication and but of course this is not our mandate, and this will ultimately be decided by Finance Ministry and the GST Council. So I'm not trying to pressurize in any way or change the direction. We are only saying that we have given our humble recommendations to the government for these things.
Sure, sir. Sir, recently we heard about the telcos and the TRAI, having a little tussle over the priority plans. Now, what are the TRAI's apprehensions over these priority plans?
Well, I think we have already explained that to the court, and as you know, the matter is being under investigation of TRAI. We had said that till the investigation is complete, stop it. But that the Honorable TDSAT has overturned that decision. So therefore, they are going ahead with their priority plans, and we are examining it. And the broad two concerns which we are examining is whether the priority plans are the priority plan fellows getting better bandwidth or not, because the TSPs have always said that they cannot promise any bandwidth, minimum bandwidth in the wireless world. So if you can't ensure any bandwidth in the wireless world, how can you ensure better bandwidth to somebody? Because suppose you have zero bandwidth at some point in time, how can you divide zero into two positive quantities? So you can give a better to somebody. That fellow will also get zero, right? Similarly, the other issue which we are concerned with is that if you give priority, and suppose you are able to do that, then whether it will not affect the other have-nots, so to say, the non-priority fellows. Today, imagine, I mean, if the throughput of something is constant, and if you reserve some part of it for some special users, then obviously the rest of it is left to be divided among the non-privileged users, right? So it's a zero-sum game. Now, if you give some more to somebody, you are bound to give less to somebody else.
Absolutely.
So our issue is that whether these priority, if they are able to give, whether this will adversely affect the bandwidth availability to the other users who are not fortunate enough or rich enough to pay more money, right?
To afford that kind of.
Imagine in this situation where a poor person's child, he's also having an online kind of, he wants to access some internet. Now, because the poor man cannot pay more money and he can't become a priority customer, then therefore he will have to be satisfied with no internet. That's not fair. So that is our second concern. So I think these are broadly two concerns. Of course, there are other issues, and I don't want to, as I said, it's something which is being inquired into, and we are inquiring besides other questions into these two questions also. Here I'm sure within 10 days or so, I believe the telcos have given all the data to TRAI, and within the next 2 weeks, as we had promised to the TDSET, we will be able to complete the inquiry.
Absolutely. So you also stressed on promoting domestic manufacturers of hardware, signaling equipment, fiber, and other equipment. What are your recommendations and suggestions to make this a reality? Promoting domestic manufacturers.
Look, these are very large number of recommendations, and I don't want to read out all of these. Only thing is, I want to focus on a larger question, which is essentially why is it so important for us to have domestic manufacturing of telecom equipments? Please understand, there was a thrust by the government and our Honorable Minister of Communications and IT, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad. This has been one of his favorite sort of topics, and he has really worked very hard to ensure the mobile handset manufacturing or electronics manufacturing in general is promoted in this country, and he has been extremely successful in doing that, I must say. So today we can proudly say that India has become a major important hub for manufacturing of mobile handsets. Now, what is important is that mobile handsets are at the edge of the network. Inside the network, you have the core network, you have the towers, you have the other BSC, as they say, the collection of towers. So I think these components are like the heart, are like the main internal organs of the network, and these internal organs have got to be absolutely clean from any kind of hacking or cyber threats, etc. So that is why it is important and is in our strategic interest to ensure that we sort of start manufacturing of domestically start manufacturing the equipment of the telecommunication sector. That is the recommendation which we have given. Now we have given number of recommendations. We have said that promotion, research, innovation and digitalization, design, testing, certification and manufacturing indigenous telecom equipment. Telecom Research and Development Fund with an initial corpus of 1,000 crores should be created. Subsequently, setting up of Telecom Entrepreneurship Promotion Fund (TEPF) and Telecom Manufacturing Promotion Fund (TMPF) should also be considered. Then we have said that a telecommunication equipment development board should be constituted under the Telecom Engineering Center for faster and coordinated decisions. Universities, technical educations offering specialization in telecommunication techniques and system-based design should be set up, identified, because you must understand that this whole thing will not happen in a day. Any manufacturing process has a huge amount of ecosystem associated with it. There are component-based components, research, ancillaries, all kind of technology developments, technology standardization. All these things are involved, and therefore what we have recommended is a holistic approach to ensure that we end up creating a robust ecosystem in India for manufacturing of domestic equipments in the telecom sector, because it is so important and it is in our strategic interest. We can't allow our networks on which the entire life or entire society is going to depend. We cannot allow that to be hijacked or hacked or actually compromised in any manner.
True. So you have also been advocating digital diplomacy strategy that India should adopt with other countries. What are your views on it, sir?
Look, the reason for this digital diplomacy is like this. India has, over the past decade or so, created a set of technologies which are unique, which are frugal, which are interoperable, which are customer friendly, and which are absolutely platform based, which is open technologies. Now these technologies are, for example, let us take the digital identity. Now digital identity is at the base of every digital transaction. In any formal system, especially the digital systems, you need to establish that you are Mr. Kailash Nath Adhikari, right? And therefore there should be some way. So we created a digital identification system in this country, which actually has provided digital identities to 120 crore people of this nation. Thereafter, we created a number of services on top of this digital identity. We created a digital locker where you can actually store your document and you can digitally sign those documents, which is basically what the Prime Minister's Digital India program promised, a private space on public cloud to every citizen. So that we have done. We have also done a digital signature on demand, which is what is called e-sign. So we have e-sign. We have also done, electronic KYC, which means a paperless process of proving and actually transferring a digitally signed identity paper to whichever service you are, subscribing to. So, for example, you can open a bank account and straight away authenticating yourself. You can fix your digital signatures on the customer acquisition form, and you can transfer your electronic KYC to the bank's database. So I think this is electronic KYC, e-sign, and of course authentication. You can authenticate and deliver against the service delivery. So for example, you can do electronic, you can buy SIN, you can buy ration, you can buy SIN using your eKYC, you can buy ration using your authentication. So there are a large number of these products which have been built on top of this platform. And what is important is, from a governance perspective, these actually provide for a presenceless, paperless, cashless, in a very remote kind of governance systems. UPI is a set of protocols which have been created by our country, and which has, as I explained to you, has ensured 1.25 billion transactions last month. The Aadhaar-enabled payment systems, they have been done. Now we are building more and more utilities and technologies on top of it, and products on top of it. So what is happening is, these products have the characteristics. They have not actually emulated or copied whatever happening in the West. Typically, that's what was happening in the technology space thus far. We have created our own products, our own Indian, India stack, as we call it. Now that India stack actually is so much appropriate for countries in Africa, for countries in Southeast Asia, for many poor countries and developing countries who actually have these issues relating to identity, relating to creating those systems, payment systems, etc. Today, if you transfer money using Western Union, you pay a huge amount of money. Come on, you transfer money using Google Pay, or you transfer money through Phone Pay, you actually get rewards. So it's a huge transformation.
Cashbacks होते हैं, कई सारे cashbacks भी होते हैं.
Cashback, तो मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि इतना परिवर्तन हमने कर दिया, और इतने परिवर्तन की टेक्नोलॉजीज हमने बना दी. एंड एक्चुअली अनफॉर्चुनेट पार्ट क्या है ना, हम लोग कुछ अच्छा भी कर गुजरते हैं, तब भी हमारे देश में कहते हैं नहीं कुछ नहीं हुआ, उसने अच्छा, दूसरे वाले ने अच्छा किया था. तो ये तो हमारी दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण तरीका है.
दूर के ढोल सुहावने लगते हैं,
उसको मानसिकता कहिए, कुछ भी कहिए. हम कहते हैं ये सारी टेक्नोलॉजीज आर समथिंग व्हिच इंडिया शुड बी प्राउड ऑफ. मैं, आप विश्वास कीजिए, मैं जब बाहर जाता हूं कभी भी, अब तो बहुत दिनों से नहीं जा रहा हूं बिकॉज ऑफ कोविड, बट जब मैं जाता था और जब ये मैं बताता हूं लोगों को कि भाई ये हमने कर दिया, तो लोगों की आंखें खुली की खुली रह जाती हैं. मतलब वो इनको आश्चर्य होता है, और फिर कहते हैं भाई हम कैसे कर सकते हैं इस चीज को. तो मेरा कहने का, जब इतनी ललक है, इतनी भूख है, इतनी उत्सुकता है लोगों के बीच में, तो क्यों नहीं हमें एक प्रकार का डिजिटल डिप्लोमेसी का एक बनाना चाहिए वर्टिकल, जिसमें हम पैसा तो नहीं दे सकते. चीन बहुत ज्यादा इन्वेस्टमेंट्स कर रहा है अफ्रीका में, और बहुत सारे देशों को खरीद ही रहा है वर्चुअली. ठीक है ना, श्रीलंका,
काफी सारे हैं.
तो ये तो हम नहीं कर सकते, लेकिन हम ज्ञान तो दे सकते हैं, हम टेक्नोलॉजी तो दे सकते हैं. तो इसको क्यों नहीं, और ये ज्ञान और टेक्नोलॉजी कहीं पैसे से ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण होती है. तो हमें लगता है कि हमें इस चीज को प्रचार प्रसार इसका करना चाहिए बड़े तरीके से, जिससे कि लोगों के बीच में, दूसरे देशों में भी हमारी मतलब एक टेक्नोलॉजी भी जाए, और हो सकता है उस टेक्नोलॉजी के जाने से थोड़े बहुत लाभ भी होंगे हमारे देश को. तो वो तो कंसिक्वेंशियल है, इंसिडेंटल है. वी आर नॉट लुकिंग फॉर अ ह्यूज कैपिटल गेन्स, but we certainly are looking for creating a goodwill in those countries, and that is what I have suggested, that we must have digital diplomacy for exporting and taking these replicating these concepts and thoughts in other countries.
Sure, sir. I'll just move forward to my last question, since time is also now coming up. Recently, Paytm held telecom companies responsible for not being able to prevent phishing attacks after millions of its customers have been defrauded over mobile networks. They also said their plea to the High Court that telcos have failed to discharge their statutory obligation under the TCCPR 2018, which was notified by TRAI to curb the problem of unsolicited commercial communications. How do you see this matter?
Well, to curb the unsolicited communication, commercial communications, what is called UCC in brief, more effectively and efficiently, TRAI notified the regulations TCCPR 2018 on 19 July 2018 after extensive public consultation. The regulation mandated adoption of distributed ledger technology DLT as a platform for UCC ecosystem, which is called typically called blockchain. The telcos have set up the required infrastructure and developed and operationalized the new system. Now, onboarding of the business entities, which is principal entities like ICICI Bank, for example, or State Bank, or any other entity which actually does the advertisement, is going on. Till now, more than 65,000 principal entities and 1 lakh headers have been registered on the new system. As regards Paytm contention about phishing attack, it is clarified that regulations clearly mention that dealing with such issues like fraudulent communications, obnoxious communications, threatening calls, and malicious calls, etc., are not under the purview of TRAI. However, customer has options to report such incidences to the concerned authorities who are willing to participate in the system and take remedial actions. UCC ecosystem is designed to pass on such information to concerned authorities, organizations, or entities if such entities are willing to participate in the ecosystem. For example, lottery renting offers for installing mobile towers, seeking personal information, investment tips or advisories from unauthorized sources using voice call or SMS can be routed to the concerned participating entities such as SEBI, RBI, associations in the sector itself, etc. So TRAI is not really getting into the content. TRAI is only creating a mechanism to, check the menace of the unsolicited commercial calls and actually put a stop immediately when these things are happening. And it uses technology, the blockchain technologies, to make that happen. We are not really, for example, you must have seen, if you type ICICI Bank and in place of ICICI you just forgot one I, then you will be taken to some site which will basically show as if it is a banking site, right? They are the squatters. They are actually similarly sounding names. The problem is who is the original and who is the duplicate? Who will decide that? That is not our mandate. That is not our call. These are the issues of another domain, the crime investigation domain, or the other cyber space domain, cheating, fraud, etc. This is not our domain. So therefore, what Paytm has said is basically, I have explained to you what is the technology which we are doing, and anything which is beyond the domain of that technology cannot be sort of loaded onto us, cannot be thrown at our door saying that you check it. We can't, as I said, try har bal ki dawa nahi.
Bilkul. We have a large number of attendee base who are attending this webinar, sir, because we have just like a minute left. I'll just take one question from them. A viewer wants to ask, sir, what is the status of telecom equipment testing and setup of test lab, which is being proposed and discussed since past decade?
No, I think the TEC is there, which is basically, which basically goes into the stuff related to testing, etc. We are also, as far as testing is concerned, we are also a part of the international, sort of group, which is the mutual recognition agreement, as they say, MRA, which basically means that if there's a lab in America which is tested something for some dimension, for example, security, or for example, robustness, then we don't need to do the test all over again. So I think there's an ecosystem in the world which operates, which actually ensures that that testing is done. Only thing what we are required to do is to create necessary and mandatory systems to ensure that whatever equipment comes to India, and if it is a critical equipment, it gets tested. So that, I think, the Department of Telecom, I have seen the reports in the last few days, they have been actually doing that.
Sure, sir. And just on TCCPR, TCCPR, there's a viewer who actually wants to thank and congratulate TRAI for this amazing initiative, as I can see on my panel. He just wants to ask that what was the thought behind choosing DLT, the distributed ledger technology, commonly known as blockchain, as a technology to implement TCCPR?
Actually, it's a little techie kind of question, but let me try to attempt it. I'm not sure whether I'll do justice with it or not. The issue is, let me give you an example. Suppose there is a 10-digit follow. Suppose I get paid by somebody and says कि भाई आप जो है 20 कॉल कर दीजिए, एक कॉल का आपको 10 रुपया मिलेगा, और इसको बता दीजिए कि इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी ले लीजिए या कुछ और कर लीजिए, some प्रमोशनल कॉल। मैंने कहा ठीक है भाई, मुझे नंबर दे दिए, उन्होंने नंबर दिए। आई होप योर रीडर, योर व्यूअर अंडरस्टैंड्स हिंदी। जस्ट आस्क।
यस, आई एम श्योर।
तो उन्होंने दे दिए पैसे, तो उन्होंने भाई साहब ने 50 कॉल कर डाले और 500 रुपया अपनी जेब में रख लिए घर बैठे बैठे, और लोगों को 50 लोगों को तंग कर लिया उन्होंने। 50 में से 10 लोगों ने उनको गाली दी तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, चल भाई सुन लिया। अब क्या होता है कि अब किसी 50 में से एक व्यक्ति ने कहा कि ये बड़ा बदमाश है, मैं इसकी शिकायत करूंगा। तो उन्होंने शिकायत की। अब शिकायत वो किसको करेंगे? मान लीजिए वो वोडाफोन आइडिया के कस्टमर है, तो उन्होंने वोडाफोन आइडिया को शिकायत की कि मुझे इस नंबर से एक फोन कॉल आया था और वो बिल्कुल स्पैम कॉल था। अब वो जो स्पैमर है, वो स्पैमर मान लीजिए बीएसएनएल का सब्सक्राइबर है, तो वोडाफोन आइडिया उसको पता लगाएगा पहले कि इस नंबर से आया था, तो ठीक है भाई ये बीएसएनएल का नंबर है, तो वो बीएसएनएल को बताएगा। बीएसएनएल अपने यहाँ इंक्वायरी करेगा कि भाई ये मतलब हुआ, कॉल किया था कि नहीं किया था, किस नंबर को किया था, कैसे किया था, और इसका सिम कब, ऑल काइंड्स ऑफ इंक्वायरीज दे विल डू। सो व्हाट विल हैपन इज कि इस पूरी प्रक्रिया में करीब 10 दिन लग जाते थे। उस 10 दिन में या 5 दिन जो भी कह लीजिए आप, उस दिन में वो क्या करता था कि वो 100 कॉल तो मिनिमम करता है एक दिन में, तो 1000 लोगों को परेशान करके उसके बाद 11वें दिन वो सिम फेंक देगा। ठीक है, और नई सिम लेना बड़ा आसान है उसके लिए, तो वो ले लेगा। तो होगा क्या कि इस प्रकार से, एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल दे रहा हूं, बहुत सारे और एग्जांपल्स हैं जिनको हमने टैकल किया है, बट I'm just giving a very common sense example. So then what happens is that somehow if we can have a mechanism to have a shared database which is accessible to all the TSPs, that as soon as the complaint is made, immediately that complaint is kind of distributed to everybody. So every telco gets the complaint in a real time, and immediately his system is triggered, so that the first thing which he does is he basically limits that guy's SMS sending capacity to maybe 25. He says you can't send more than 25 messages from this, and as the complaint comes, he can actually again do the capacity to 10. So immediately we are able to take action, and of course after inquiry we can actually completely remove him from the system, and we can cancel the connection, and we can do that. So this is just one example. Now what happened? Distributed ledger technology enables everybody to sort of read the data, act on the data, and of course it maintains a complete log, so there is a complete traceability, there is a complete non-repudiability in these systems. So therefore this we found to be the best system to maintain. And actually, as you know, the distributed ledger technology is based on consensus. There's a term called consensus, on which if 10 nodes consent out of 12, then it's considered as the truth, so to say. So this is the basis. So essentially, if you have, there are multiple telcos, there are multiple principal entities, there are multiple telemarketers. So it's a huge ecosystem consisting of large number of entities, and we need to create a system where the digital consensus can happen in real time, and actions can be initiated in real time. So I think I don't know whether I've been able to explain this properly or not.
Very well.
This is the reason why we selected the
distribution ledger technology. Yes. Chaliye sir, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining the Visionary Talks by Governance Now. And thank you so much to ladies and gentlemen also, and thank you so much for taking time out of your valuable time out of your busy schedule for Governance Now. It's always been a pleasure interacting with you. And thank you so much, sir, for joining us. And thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining on the 7th episode of Visionary Talks by Governance Now. Thank you so much, sir. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. Adhikari. Thank you very much for having me on this. I have always enjoyed, conversations with Governance Now. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, sir. Same. Pleasure is all ours, sir. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Okay.